Let's make my Churn Dashing quilt pattern that uses only a half a charm pack and 3/4 of a yard for the background. Now I am using the Season of Tribute Roots of Nature by Bonnie Christine and moss from Pure Solids, all from Art Gallery Fabrics. But for this pattern, you will only need 20 5-inch squares, which is half of a charm pack. Now do save those remaining 20 5-inch squares, as I have another pattern that will use them up, which I will have linked down below in the description. Also, you will need 3/4 of a yard for your background and border. And with your background yardage, you will need to cut 8 5-inch squares and 16 2.5-inch by 4.5-inch rectangles. Then with your print 5-inch squares, you are going to select 4 5-inch squares and trim them down to a 4.5-inch square. Next, you will select 8 5-inch squares and you will then cut them into 2 2.5-inch by 4.5-inch rectangles per each square, giving you a total of 16 2.5-inch by 4.5-inch print rectangles. Then with the remaining 5-inch squares, on the wrong side you will draw a 45-degree diagonal from corner to corner with a fabric marking tool. Then you are going to take the background 5-inch square and place them right sides together and sew a 1/4 inch away from both sides of that line you just drew. Then afterward, with a rotary cutter or fabric scissors, you will go ahead and cut on the line to create a total of 2 half square triangles. Now, depending on your charm packs, you might need to square them up, and you will do so by trimming them down to a 4.5-inch square. Now, you'll just repeat this step to all of your 5-inch squares until you've made a total of 16 half square triangles. Next, using both the print and background 2.5-inch by 4.5-inch rectangles, you will sew them together to create a 4.5-inch square. Pretty simple, so all you'll have to do is repeat this step to all of your rectangles until you've made a total of 16 4.5-inch quilt blocks. Now that all of your blocks are ready, it is time to create your Churn Dash quilt block. Now for each block you will need 1 print 4.5-inch square, 4 of the pieced half rectangle square blocks, and 4 of the half square triangles. Now I recommend mixing up your prints to create that scrappy look, but then all you have to do is sew your smaller blocks together to form rows, and then lastly sew your rows together to complete your quilt block. Your quilt block should measure as a 12.5-inch square. So you'll just repeat this step until you've made a total of 4 quilt blocks. Then once all of your blocks are finished, you will just lay each block side by side to create your table runner. Then last but not least, you will cut 3.5-inch by width of fabric strips to only add on the longest side of your table runner. But feel free to make a border all the way around. You will have enough fabric to do so if you would like a longer table runner. Otherwise, I thought about changing it up a bit and only adding the border to the longest sides. And here is what my table runner looks like all complete. This pattern would also look fantastic in a larger quilt, so feel free to make as many blocks as you would like to go as big as you would want. Now for the backing, I am using this coordinated print from the same collection, and for the thread choice, I am going with glide threads in the color stone. And here is what my quilt looks like all quilted. I went with boysenberry for the edge-to-edge quilt pattern, which I will have linked down below in the description. But I do hope you have enjoyed today's tutorial. If you could please take a moment to hit that like and subscribe button, hit the notification bell so you can be notified for your next amazing quilt project.